Just like it says in Ecclesiastes, there really isn't anything new under the sun. False prophets have been an issue for thousands of years, and not a lot has changed in that area. But this is why I absolutely love the wonderful story of Micaiah. It's probably my favorite story in the Old Testament, and it's probably one you haven't heard before because this is not a story that a lot of pastors or teachers preach on. But it can be found in 1 Kings 22 and also 2 Chronicles 18. But basically what happens is this. King Ahab, who was the king of Israel, and King Jehoshaphat, who was the king of Judah, were sitting around having a conversation, wondering if they should invade this city. And Jehoshaphat has the idea. He says, well, let's first check with all of our prophets to see if this is something that we should do. So King Ahab had 400 prophets sitting around that he could ask. And that sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a noble thing to check with your prophets first. The problem is King Ahab had 400 ear-tickling prophets who only told him what he wanted to hear and would not tell him the truth. So they called all these prophets in, and of course all 400 of them say, yeah, everything's going to be fine. You're going to be successful. You're going to come back safe. Everything's going to be fine. And Jehoshaphat, as if 400 prophets wasn't enough for him, he says, isn't there another prophet we could inquire of? Isn't there another prophet of the Lord? And Ahab says, well, yeah, there's this one other prophet called Micaiah, but he only prophesies evil against me. So they decided they would bring him in, and they brought him in, but the guy that went to go get him told him the whole deal. He said, hey, listen, there's 400 prophets, and they're all prophesying the same thing. They're all saying that the king is going to be successful. You should do the same. You should tell him he's going to be safe and that everything's going to be fine. And Micaiah says, I'm only going to prophesy as the Lord tells me. So, of course, he goes up to King Ahab and he tells him the truth. And he tells him that that the Lord gave him a vision that he was going to die in battle and that Israel was going to be scattered. And so what he does, he looks at King Jehoshaphat and says, look, didn't I tell you that this guy only prophesies evil against me? Now, there's 4 things I wanted to discuss in this story. Okay, there's 4 points that I wanted to make just really quick. The first one is that the ratio of false prophets to real prophets was 400 to 1. Just think about that for a second. 400 to 1. That means there were 400 false prophets for just one true prophet of the Lord. This is definitely, I think, the case today. I mean, just look at how many YouTube channels there are out there that are just giving ear-tickling messages to people that want to hear them, that are telling them that, there's going to be peace and security, everything's going to be fine, that they don't need to quit their sin. They're telling them things that they want to hear, but they don't tell them the things that they need to hear. This is so common. It's so hard to find people who are willing to stand on the truth. It's just not popular. But the other thing is that the king surrounded himself with these ear-tickling prophets, that he purposely set it up this way. This is the way he wanted it. He wanted all these false prophets just to tell him what he wanted to hear and not tell him, what he actually needed to hear. And then Micaiah comes along and he says that Micaiah was just speaking evil against him. He saw this as a bad thing. He saw him telling the truth as being evil. And that's another point, is that all these false prophets and the king saw this one prophet of the Lord, Micaiah, who was speaking by the Holy Spirit. They said that he was evil, right? And this is exactly the case today. If you tell people the truth, if you tell people about their sin, if you tell people about judgment, you're going to be telling them things they don't want to hear. You're going to be hated even among the so-called prophets of today. Okay? And the other issue is that most prophets today are of the ear-tickling variety. They even have schools, okay? They have schools that teach you how to become a prophet. And what it is basically just ear-tickling messages. They teach them to say the first thing that pops in their mind. Whatever it is, it's the first thing. And if it's something that's positive, then it's from God. If it's something that's negative and, puts somebody down or talks about their sin or something like that, then that's not from God. And this is what they'll tell them, that it has to be something uplifting. So what you end up with are all these prophets. I mean, these are all over YouTube. These are all over churches across America and across the world, that they will only speak, wonderful, ear-tickling messages to you. They'll say, oh, you're going to get that job promotion. You have something great coming your way. You have money coming your way, prosperity, or, you name it. It'll only be positive things. You're going to buy a new house soon, or you're going to be blessed with this opportunity. It's all just things that people want to hear. And the Bible is very clear. If you read through Jeremiah, if you read through, some of the other Old Testament books, it's very, very clear that prophets who just say smooth things to people and flatter them are likely not from God, because true prophets of God are going to be hated by all. They're going to be despised, just like Micaiah. So what happened was when Micaiah, and here's the last point that I want to make. When Micaiah spoke the truth, one of the head prophets out of the 400 came up to him and slapped him in the face. And then he said something that was really alarming to me, that really stuck out to me. He said, "When did the Holy Spirit leave me to go to you?" This right here is scary, friends, okay? What we have is 400 false prophets that all sincerely believe that they're speaking by the Holy Spirit, and that are clearly not. And this is scary because this applies directly to people today, is that you have so many prophets out there that claim that they're speaking from God and maybe even truly believe it. But all they're doing is speaking things out of their own minds. They're just speaking out of their own flesh, and they're speaking things that they think people want to hear. And they're doing it in the name of the Lord. Just like these 400 false prophets. They were doing this in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. And that's exactly what people are doing today. Guys, we got to be vigilant. We got to be on guard. That's all I got for today. God bless.